You know, many people in the world today don't believe it's even possible to eat a diet that consists of only meat and eggs and fish and other animal products. Some people believe it's possible, but that it's probably very, very dangerous. It'll kill you in just a few months. Other people believe, yeah, it's possible. Yeah, you could do it for a while, but you don't want to do that for too long. It might cause some medical conditions or medical problems or increase your risk of something bad happening. Well, today I've got three other doctors who espouse, endorse, and practice a carnivore diet, and they've all been doing it long term. Many of them doing it longer than me, which is 8 years and change. And I think that if you are a carnivore curious or currently on a carnivore diet, or you have a friend who's like, well, I would try that carnivore, but I'm afraid my heart will explode, then this might be the conversation that you want to tag them in or send them a link for. You're all welcome to share this on your favorite social media. I'm going to be joined today by Dr. Shawn Baker, by Dr. Robert Kiltz, and by Dr. Anthony Chaffee. And I think the four of us talk about a carnivore diet probably more than any other doctors on YouTube or other social media. And so we've all been doing this for many years. We all are very familiar with it. We've all answered thousands of questions about a carnivore diet and is it healthy or not. And so I'm going to bring these other doctors up. Here is Dr. Shawn Baker. Welcome, Dr. Baker.
Ken, thanks for having me here. Appreciate it. Yeah, good topic.
Always a pleasure, my friend. And here's Dr. Robert Kiltz.
Hello, gentlemen. Welcome. Thanks for having me here.
Oh, man, it's so great to have you guys. And Dr. Chaffee's father is sick and in the hospital, and so he is going to be joining us, but it may be a few minutes. So welcome, gentlemen. Glad to have you. Now, for everybody watching, I want you to know that this is going to be kind of like a roundtable discussion. We're going to talk about topics in the carnivore diet that people in the carnivore community are excited about, worried about, talking about. We're going to dispel some carnivore myths. We're going to bring some new carnivore information to light. And later in this video, we got a very special surprise for you. We've got either a 2-minute or a 3-minute clip from the upcoming documentary called Animal, which is about the carnivore diet that all four of us appear in. And we've got Josh, the director. He's going to set up that 2 or 3 minute clip. It's a good chunk of the film. And so if you've been anxious to watch Animal, the documentary about the carnivore diet, definitely stick with us and hang out with us and listen to this conversation, because we're going to be showing a good clip of that later in this video. Dr. Baker, how's it going in your corner of the carnivore world?
It is going well. As you mentioned, I've been doing this for a very long time, and I have had the great fortune to witness thousands and thousands of transformations of people who are gaining their health and getting their lives back. And, just doing what, all of us as physicians set out to do, was to actually heal people and not just chronically medicate them. So, yeah, it's been quite good. And I only see this thing continuing to expand and grow as it's hard to keep good things down. And so very, very nice.
And you know as well as I do that the carnivore diet has come to prominence multiple times over the centuries, right? But I think now we've got this magic tool that none of the other doctors who've rediscovered this over and over through the decades and the centuries. We've got social media, and I think you're exactly right. Dr. Robert Kiltz, fertility specialist in New York. How's everything going in your part of the carnivore world?
Everything is rosy and red, like red meat, not roses, by the way. It's going wonderful. I mean, we're really seeing such amazing changes to so many people suffering from polycystic ovarian syndrome, endometriosis. I've even seen uterine fibroids shrink, but certainly seeing so many couples improve their sperm, eggs, embryos, and conceive naturally when just nothing's been happening for so long. And, the remarkable healing we're seeing, and ultimately our foundation is our children. And we've seen such a reduction in reproduction for so long. And now hopefully we'll see more and more people sort of say, hey man, I'm going to jump on this and try it out where I don't need shots, pills, surgeries, nor IVF.
If I had heard you say that 9 or 10 years ago, when I was first experimenting with ketogenic diet, trying that, losing weight, reversing prediabetes, I would have thought you were psychotic, because back then I thought a low carb diet, very low carb, even carnivore, it's a weight loss hack, right? But I had been so miseducated and undereducated about human physiology and human nutrition that if you had said to me, oh, if you eat a high-fat carnivore diet, that will increase a woman's fertility rate, that will increase a man's sperm motility and sperm health, I would have thought, what? Everybody knows plants are magic. What are you talking about? I want to talk to each of you guys. When did it first occur to you, you know what? Carnivore is more than just a weight loss diet. It's more than just a whatever diet. This is affecting human physiology at the bedrock level. Dr. Baker, what was the thing? What was your epiphany? Like, whoa, this is more than just weight loss.
Yeah, I think the first time I noticed that, it's not just about weight loss was when I was still practicing orthopedics full time, and I would put my patients on, low carb and ketogenic diets at the time. And
Yep.
I ended up canceling surgeries because people's knees stopped hurting, even though the x-ray would have warranted a knee replacement. And so that kind of clued me in that, hey, the diet can make a big difference. But I mean, somewhere, after going carnivore and then back in 2017, I convinced 100 people to do carnivore while I was discussing it on Twitter, and we got the results back. And I mean, yes, they all lost weight, but more importantly, every imaginable symptom got better. All of the metrics that we could measure around health improved dramatically. So that was the beginning of that. And then again, since that time, I've seen, and some really freaky things that get better, all these autoimmune diseases, all these, even genetic diseases that you would think like I'll give you an example of Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. It's a genetic connective tissue disorder with a problem with type 1 collagen. And these people who chronically dislocate their joints, they go on a carnivore diet and their joints stop dislocating, which I still to this day cannot quite figure out why that occurs. But it does, and I've seen it over and over again. So yeah, it's been, and this is something what I talked about early on when I saw people talking about ketogenic diets in the context of either weight loss or diabetes. I said, look, it's much more than that. And now, as you know, people are talking about mental health, but it's so much more. I mean, there's so much more, and I think most of the disease is probably us living in a discordant fashion from what we're designed to be living at. And I think the carnivore diet is, as you like to say, a proper human diet that puts us into a proper place where our health should be.
Yep. Dr. Kiltz, what was the moment? Do you remember when you were like, wait a minute?
Well, let's see. I've been practicing fertility for 30 plus years. And about 20 years ago, I integrated acupuncture, yoga, meditation, prayer to kind of de-stress and hopefully reduce cortisol, epinephrine, and help people stay in the game and reduce inflammation. And some of my patients were getting pregnant on this diet called paleo. And I said, I had how are you getting pregnant on paleo diet? So I dug into it and I then found keto, and then I ran into carnivore. And I suffer from arthritis, psoriasis, migraines, kidney stones, bowel bleeding, and more myself. And they went away. They got better on paleo, better on keto, and gone on carnivore. And so, I figured it's my job to share with our patients something that it didn't make sense until you dig deep and realize this isn't new. It's been around a long time. If you read Salisbury stuff from the 1800s and many more people, you'll realize that plants ultimately are poisonous for humans in any significance or frequency, or in some cases, small amounts. That's all it takes. And the companies that used to tell us that tobacco wasn't harmful for us somehow managed to buy up the plant, all the other food companies, and basically, hoolah! You know, we're gonna tell you that plants are good, and no one's gonna argue with that one because we know fat is bad, and we see so many people healing on paleo, keto, and carnivore is quite amazing. And interesting enough, the birth control pill and the abortion pill are made from plants. And you know, when you start thinking about this stuff, it's radical. But we've been, you know, we talk about it a lot, and there are more and more people, as you're seeing, looking at carnivore as like the top of the line. The last I looked, I think we're more like lions than we are like pigs, cows, and sheep.
Yep. And I'll tell you guys the two quick stories that made me go, wait a minute, there's something more to this. I had a 48-year-old woman and a 51-year-old woman, both flirting aggressively with menopause, right? But they both came in and they had seen my weight loss transformation. I'd went from 297 pounds to probably at that time 250, still overweight, but way better. And they both wanted to try this diet. And then it was basically meat-heavy keto. And I said, yeah, give it a try. And so at either 3 or 6 months follow-up, both of them came back in. They both lost weight, but they were also both pregnant. One was very, very happy about this because they've been praying for a baby. That's the 48-year-old. And I'm like, weird, but okay, you know, that happens. Then the 51-year-old came in, and she was not happy at all about being pregnant. And I was on her shit list for quite a few months, and because my diet had made her get pregnant. And that's when I was like, this is reaching deep in physiology. That's weird. And then I had a guy, and I used to be an x-ray tech before med school. And so I had x-rays in my office. I would shoot x-rays every day. And I had x-rayed this guy. He weighed about 450 pounds. And I put him on just beef, butter, bacon, and eggs. I said, 0 carb. Let's see how much, because he was scheduled for knee replacement. And he's a preacher. We're still friends on Facebook to this day. And he came back in, and he was walking with 2 canes when I saw him, one in each hand. He came back in, and he was so heavy, guys, he had to go to the co-op and weigh on the feed scale. He could not weigh in any doctor's office. That's how heavy he was. So we're guessing 450 because that's as high as my scale went up. He comes back in either 3 months or 6 months, he had lost 80, 90 pounds.
Wow.
And he was walking with 1 cane. And he said, you know, my knee still bothers me a little, but this other one doesn't hurt at all. He was scheduled for bilateral. He said, I called the surgeon and canceled that. Do you think that's wise? Is that smart? And I'm like, well, yeah, if it's not hurting you, then don't. And so the next time I saw him, 6 months later, he's walking with no canes. And this is still documented on the Berry Clinic Facebook page. If you scroll back enough years, you can see him. I videoed him walking up the hall with no canes, and it had been years since he had walked with a cane. And I know for a fact that his knees were bone on bone because I had x-rayed them in my office. It was not just a self-reporting bone on bone. It was at those 3 moments I was like, there's way more to this than weight loss. Now, everybody watching, I'd love it if you'd tell me in the comments what carnivore's done for you. And if you haven't already done so, hit the thumbs up or the heart. And please consider sharing this. We're going to have Dr. Anthony Chaffee joining us here in just a few minutes. He's tending to his very ill father, but he's going to try to jump on here when he can. Let's get controversial. You guys up for it? All right. Okay.
No, we don't like controversy. We like it to be easy.
Baker's face when I said that. Okay. There's this rumor, theory, hypothesis going around in the carnivore community that if you're too strictly carnivore for too long, that it can cause something that's been labeled insulin suppression, and that it can in a negative way, a pathological way, suppress your body's ability to secrete insulin from the beta cells in your pancreas. What do you think about this? What have you heard? What are you seeing? Because I know both of you guys work with thousands of people just like I do. Have you seen this? Do you think this is real? If not, what do you think's going on instead? We'll start with Dr. Baker.
Well, I mean, certainly we see people's insulin come down on
Sure.
carnivore, and we see it on a ketogenic diet as well. A lot of people have insulins 20, 30, and then on carnivore, it'll be consistently below 5, maybe 2, 3 or something like that. I don't know that that is suppression. I think that when people say, I've heard people say that you must have carbohydrates to stimulate insulin secretion from the pancreas. Well, that's just clearly not true. We know that protein will also stimulate insulin. I think if we look at, if you can say like, we don't like it because insulin levels are relatively low compared to the general population. But when we think about what would be the consequence of insulin suppression, you would see a type 1 diabetes, basically. I mean, you would see, the person would become emaciated. And I just don't really see that to any significant degree. So any clinical, sort of supposition from insulin suppression would tend to have someone towards type 1 diabetes. It's not to say that, no one could develop diabetes, autoimmune diabetes or something, because those things, we know those things occur particularly in older populations.
Yes.
So I like I said, I don't know. And I think Ben Bickman has mentioned this as well in a very nice way. It says that a lot of people, their insulin was low, and the assumption is their insulin is not suppressed, but they're very highly insulin resistant due to adaptive, glucose sparing, whatever you want to what you have. But if you give those patients insulin, their glucose will drop like a rock. I mean, they're still very sensitive to that hormone. It's just that
Sure.
not a lot of it needs to be secreted and is secreted. And so you would, what I would say is, what are the clinical outcomes? Because I saw, I think it was Rob Sivas talking about, he had a patient that was, didn't have high insulin, and he made the supposition it was insulin suppression, but the guy was doing fine. He was lean, he was muscular, he wasn't wasting away. It was just monkeying with the numbers, basically. And I think sometimes we get lost. We lose the forest for the trees, because we're playing with numbers. We don't like these numbers. We're uncomfortable with certain numbers. But then when we actually talk to the patient and say, what's actually going on? How are you doing? How are you feeling? It doesn't match up our preconceived notions. And I think realistically, we have to realize that carnivore physiology is probably different than carb-based physiology. And even if you look at carnivorous animals and you start looking at their blood glucose and their insulin parameters, it looks like a carnivorous human, which, not surprisingly, that makes sense. So I'm not that concerned about that, quite honestly.
Now we have Dr. Anthony Chaffee, who's just been able to join us. His father's ill, so we obviously will forgive his tardiness. And Anthony, welcome. Your father's in our prayers. I hope everything's going okay. Would you like to give us your opinion about, is insulin suppression a real thing if you stay too strictly carnivore for too long?
Hey guys, just want to take a second to thank our sponsor, Carnivore Bar. I don't promote many products because honestly, all you need to be healthy is to just eat meat. For those times that you're out hiking, road tripping, or stuck at work and you want a nutritious snack that is just meat, fat, and salt if you want it, the Carnivore Bar is a great option. So I like this product not because it's just pure meat, but also because I want the carnivore market to thrive as well. And the more we support meat-only products, the more meat-only products there will be available in the mainstream. So if this sounds like something you'd like to get behind, check it out using my discount code Anthony to get 10% off, which also applies to subscriptions, giving you 25% off total. All right, thanks guys.
Well, thank you very much for that, first of all. Not in my experience. I mean, it doesn't line up with our evolutionary history, with the what we observe in native populations like the Inuit, who are largely, if not exclusively, carnivorous by choice and also by circumstance. You're up in the North Pole, there really isn't anything else to eat. Now people can say, well, they're eating fresh meat and there's glycogen. There's not actually all that much glycogen, and does it break down and it gets into lactate? You can hold down all that down that rabbit hole, but really what we're saying is we're eating the same thing, right? And so we're eating meat, and it has a certain amount of glycogen, it has a certain amount of other nutrients, and it has the physiological effects that it has. It doesn't, you have the Native Americans who are eating pemmican for most of the year. That's dried, so you're definitely going to get a breakdown of that glycogen into lactate, and so you can't really have that argument either. But either way, you get everything that you need from meat, and we don't see this type 1 expression in the Inuit. They have very, very healthy outcomes, and so you can't live generation after generation after generation if that were the case. And so maybe there's even in Dr. Sivey's experience, he's talking about isolated examples of people that have strange numbers on their tests, and like Dr. Baker said, they were otherwise very healthy. And there's a saying in medicine, which is you treat patients, you don't treat lab tests. And so having an isolated, or a few isolated examples of someone who has numbers on their blood tests that we don't really fully understand, but otherwise healthy, that's not necessarily a reason to throw the baby out with the bathwater. And in my experience, I haven't had even an isolated example of that in my clinical practice when people go on carnivore ketogenic diets. And we've had people on ketogenic diets a lot longer than just this recent iteration of a carnivorous ketogenic diet, a plant-free ketogenic diet. So this isn't something that really showed up. And so I agree with Dr. Baker that if this was true insulin suppression, we should see elevated blood sugars. We should see people having a sort of a type 1 expression, or a LADA, or some sort of sign of insufficiency. That if you have insulin insufficiency or suppression causing insufficiency, there should be consequences thereof, namely high blood sugar, ketoacidosis, those sorts of things. And I haven't seen that yet personally myself anyway.
Yeah, I agree with both of you guys. Dr. Kiltz, how many cases of insulin suppression have you diagnosed and have you treated because of a carnivore diet?
If I saw someone with a low insulin level, I would suspect type 1 diabetes. And I haven't seen anyone on a carnivore diet, although I've measured my insulin levels and glucose on a fast, and it's been less than 2 on a 3 to 5 day fast. And my glucose levels are between 45 and 55, asymptomatic and doing normal function. My theory about insulin is it's a digestive hormone. It rises when you consume amino acids and sugars, and it goes to the liver, and in the liver, it converts amino acids, sugars to fat. That's its job. If you're eating a high fat only, then, and although you likely should see a little bit of insulin because there is some sugar and proteins in fat, but I haven't seen that. And I suspect that, carnivore is the healthiest thing you could do, and it should be a fatty meat carnivore. And I enjoy fasting because you really get lower glucose, lower insulin levels, and you feel fantastic. So,
yeah, I totally agree. I think we all agree on that. Now, you brought up that when you eat anything, your insulin elevates, and so there's another thing that I've heard in the carnivore community, that there's a subset that's now recommending a lower fat carnivore diet, because if you eat too much fat, that can cause an insulin spike, which can slow down weight loss or fat metabolism, fat loss. I'll just go first and say first of all, that's not how human physiology works. You have a very small elevation in insulin when you eat fat. You have a much higher elevation when you eat protein, and then you have the insulin spike when you eat carbohydrates. Have any of you guys, and we'll go in alphabetical order, Baker, Chaffee, Kiltz, have you guys, does this make any physiological sense to you? Do you recommend a lower fat carnivore diet to anybody, anytime? And there may be exceptions to this, but we'll go with Dr. Baker first.
Yeah, I mean, just your point on insulin and fats, fat stimulating insulin secretion. There was a recent cadaveric study looking at, they found recently deceased people, and they kept the beta cells alive, and they tested them against fat, protein, and carbs. They did find that in about 9% of the cadavers, fat actually was quite potent at stimulating insulin. So I think there is a small set of population out there of people where they do get an insulin response due to fat. So it's not completely zero. Having said that, a carnivore diet is always going to be a high fat diet. Now, there are degrees of fatness, you might say. So some people will really thrive on very high ketogenic ratios. Other people, sort of thrive with maybe 60% of their calories coming from fat. That's similar to what I often do. So a ribeye steak, for instance, reasonably marble, is going to get you about 65% of your calories coming from fat. That is still a very high fat diet, but it is a lower fat carnivore diet. So that may be some of the misconception there. Going to like protein sparing modified fast levels is not consistent with, a carnivore diet. Certainly you can use it, and people can use that to lose weight, and people do from time to time. It's not sustainable. You're going to be dealing with hunger a lot, and it's not something that like we said, there are all kinds of weight loss hacks for quick weight loss: sugar diet, carnivore diet, fat fasting, dry fasting, wet fasting, all kinds of things. But I mean, I think at the end of the day, you have to figure out something that's going to work for you over the long term. And if you're doing a carb reduced or essentially carb free diet, then you need adequate fat. And that's going to be, like I said, 1 to 1, 2 to 1, 1.5 to 1, something somewhere in that range is probably going to be appropriate for almost all people.
Yeah. Dr. Chaffee, what do you think about this idea?
Yeah. So I think that it can certainly be dangerous. Honestly, I think that people can run into serious problems. There's many ways to skin a cat. Everybody knows you starve yourself and doing these sorts of things. You can lose weight. That's not really the point. The point is to gain health. And as you improve your health and increase your health, you will also normalize your body habitus and your body composition, and you'll lose fat if you have excess fat. But your weight and your body composition follows your health, and so that's why I always try to make that the most important thing that I prioritize with my patients, is that we're working on your health first, then body composition very distant second. And if you're working out and you're putting on lean body mass and you're losing fat, the scale may not change all that much. So people think that, like, wow, I'm not losing weight even though I feel good. And so you need to be aware of that. And then nowhere on that list, I tell my patients, nowhere on that list is your weight, because your weight does not say anything about your health or your body composition. And so it's about health first. And when you're cutting out all the fat and you're starving yourself, sure, you're going to lose weight, but it's not sustainable, as Dr. Baker said. What are you going to do long term? It's better to set yourself up for future success and set your habits up now for what you're going to be doing in the future. You should be doing the same thing now that gives you good health now that you will be doing 5, 10 years, 15, 20 years down the road. So it's going to maintain those positive effects that you've had. Now, maybe it doesn't get you there as fast as you want them to, but slow and steady wins the race. I mean, this goes back to ancient Greece, right? Just stay on the path, do the right thing, even though it seems like it's taking longer, you'll actually get to where you want to go faster, better, more efficiently. It's also very important for people to realize that fat is not just a calorie source. It's not just something that's going to add to your total calories for the day. And maybe those calories need to be stored. They're essential nutrients. There's a set of essential nutrients. There are essential fatty acids you have to have or you can get sick and die. There are essential fat-soluble nutrients that you have to have or you can get sick and die. And by eliminating those, you can actually hurt yourself. And I've had many people reach out to me that they have tried this sort of short-term sort of diet. They paid thousands of dollars to go into these courses, and basically what they're told is do a carnivore diet, but mostly eat protein, low fat, and under 1,000 calories a day, and get outside and exercise. I have no doubt that that's going to make people lose weight, but it's also going to make them less healthy. And people are telling me that they're having serious health issues as a result of that. They're losing their hair, they're having other sorts of serious issues as well, and that they have to break out of that. Okay, so you can't do that forever. What do you do? What do you go back to? You haven't taught them, how to live and how to eat properly. And so now they say, okay, well, I can't maintain this. I can't continue this. And when they do, they go back to sort of whatever they were doing before, and they sort of do that yo-yo diet. So I think that's an issue. Definitely agree with the idea that fat is not your main concern for insulin elevation. It has some properties where it will slightly raise insulin in some cases, but protein is going to do it a lot more. Carbs are going to do it a lot more than that. And so if we're worried about insulin specifically, fat is actually where you want to lean into. And from very quickly from a weight perspective, so something that was pointed out by Dr. Michael Eads. And he just pointed out that we're looking at this equation the wrong way. We're saying, well, there's 9 calories per gram of fat and 4 for protein and carbs, and that's sort of not exactly that. But what he pointed out was that we're looking at it the wrong way around, because calories don't weigh anything. Grams weigh something, and so it's actually 1 gram per 9 calories. So you get more bang for your buck, whereas actually 2.2 grams per 9 calories for protein and carbs. So if you want to pull in less weight, if you eat a pound of steak, your system will weigh 1 more pound, right? And so if you're eating lean and you have to eat 3 pounds to get the same calories, then you have to take in 3 pounds, whereas otherwise you take in 1 pound. And so you're actually bringing in less grams of nutrition into your body. So that's something to think about as well. But from an insulin standpoint, you should not have, that is not what you need to worry about as far as insulin is concerned.
Yep, I totally agree. And Dr. Chaffee mentioned skinning the cat in his answer. And if you do skin the cat and decide to eat it, I would recommend frying it in butter and wrapping it in bacon, because cat is very, very lean. Now, Dr. Kiltz, I've got a question for you. This is probably the most controversial that we're going to talk about today, and then we're going to let you guys go around the table. But first, everybody watching this, we got 4,700 people watching this. We need double that number. There are people out there suffering from chronic medical diseases that literally can be reversed by this diet. Please share this on your favorite social media. Please send it in an email or a text message or WhatsApp. We need to get this message out so that the carnivore diet doesn't die like it did in 1797. It became very popular in a city, and then it just died out because there was not enough word of mouth. Then it became popular again with The Undertaker. Then it became popular again. Let's not let that happen this time. Now, one of the things that can make a very therapeutic diet like carnivore get polluted and diluted and die out is when people start trying to carve out their own little niche. Oh, well, you've got to do this or that, or it's very complicated, but take my course and I'll teach you how. There's this thing, and we actually got a comment here. Todd Adams says, let's address the elephant in the room, gentlemen. What's up with the new sugar diet craze? And I actually made a video on this recently, and several people tried to crucify me online, but I'm still with us. So obviously they didn't have their intended effect. Dr. Kiltz, what's up with this sugar diet? Do you recommend it? What's up?
Well, there's only one diet to recommend, and that's fatty meat carnivore. And any of these fad diets, I mean, these are really the fad diets. The species-specific diet, proper human diet, is simply carnivore. And when we say carnivore, it's fatty meat. That is really such a critical thing. And ultimately, fat contains every mineral, vitamin, building block for your body, and it's anti-inflammatory. We know about protein-sparing, low-fat diets, which I'm not a fan of personally. You might be able to do it in a short term to low-fat diet, but protein poisoning is real. And my sense is that most people eating a fruit, fiber, vegetable, seeds, nuts, chicken, fish, and turkey, which are all low-fat diets. And most people overcook their meat. The fat's gone. And if you look at Pottinger's cats, that essentially cooked meat may not be good for any of us. And that may be part of the problem on carnivore. But, I don't understand, sugar diet, I just stay away from all that stuff personally. We know species-specific, proper human diet, it's fatty meat. And insulin is not the cause of disease. It's a low-fat, plant-based diet. That's really simply it. Insulin's job is to make fat in the liver. If it doesn't do that, you're dead. And insulin goes up when your sugar or amino acids go up. It's supposed to do that. So I stick to the information I learned from Dr. Baker, Dr. Berry, Dr. Chaffee, and so many others in this community that really are just speaking the truth, which we're lions, not sheep.
Now, everybody that's watching this, later in this video, we're going to have a special surprise for you. We have the director of the new documentary called Animal, and we've got I think a 2-minute clip directly from the documentary that we're going to show you guys in a few minutes. So stick with us. And if you know anybody who's carnivore curious, send them a link to this video. Dr. Baker, a mutual friend of ours, is who made the video about this sugar diet. I really, really want your honest comments about this sugar diet craze.
Yeah, I actually have got a nice video coming out where I did quote unquote the sugar diet, but I did it without sugar, and I'll explain why. So You guys remember what kwashiorkor is? So that is a protein malnutrition state. We see it when these starving kids in Africa with this,
Yep.
they look like skeletons with bloated bellies. Those kids get enough calories. They get a pure carbohydrate diet with no protein, and they do indeed lose weight. And so when our body senses that we are low in methionine, we are low in leucine, we are low in branched chains amino acids, we secrete this substance, this hormone called FGF21, fibroblast growth factor 21. And when that occurs, we do, mobilize fat and glycogen, and because our body literally thinks we're starving to death. And why kids, when they're in that situation, get so skinny is because kids are in this rapid growth phase. Adults, what happens to adults is they get the typical fruitarian type of situation over the long term, right? Now, for a short-term hack, like anything else, yes, you can eat pure energy and drop your protein down to next to nothing, and you will lose weight. However, that's not sustainable, right? And, there is such thing as FGF resistance, where people, if they do this chronically, then they become resistant to this. And so to that point, I did a little experiment where I ate nothing but fat, no protein for 3 days, and I dropped 8 pounds, right? So sugar diet without the sugar, it's basically a protein restriction diet. That is not a good solution long-term. We all know the dangers of not eating enough protein. That doesn't have to be super high protein, but when you get your protein low enough, you will tend to lose weight. But like I said, and, honestly, if you stick a sugar diet on somebody who's a type 1 diabetic, a type 2 diabetic who's poorly controlled, a type 2 diabetic that's on insulin resistant, you're probably asking for DKA. These people are going to see their blood glucose go to 300, 400, 500. They're going to end up in the ER, in DKA potentially. So, I mean, this is not something you can just willy-nilly play around with. When Kepner was doing his rice diet back in the 1940s and 50s in Germany, all of his patients were inpatients. They were inpatient under strict strict medical supervision, possibly for that very, very, very well-known reason, although they didn't quite have the understanding of what's going on, but they knew they could potentially harm some people. I think that some people will lose weight doing a sugar diet. As you guys know, sugar for a lot of people is an absolute disaster: joint pain, inflammation, addiction, brain fog, hypoglycemia, hyperglycemia. So there are some potential issues. Now, if you're a super fit guy and you want to lose 10 pounds, i.e. my friend Mark Bell wants to get ripped down, I mean, yeah, he can do it. He's going to long-term, and Mark always likes to talk about strength is never a weakness. And I think he's cognizant enough to know that, you do this long enough and that strength is not going to be there anymore. So you've gotta, I mean, like I said, I just don't think you can do a long-term sugar diet, particularly if you continually restrict protein. It's going to be a disaster. Not to mention fat. Remember, carbs are inessential. Fat, as Dr. Kiltz astutely pointed out, fat soluble vitamins and so many other nutrients that are essential to human life. Sugar is not essential.
Correct.
Hey everyone, really happy to announce a new sponsor for the show and for everybody down in Australia, Stockman Steaks, who are delivering high quality grass-fed and finished pasture-raised beef and other meats, flash frozen and vacuum sealed to your door, something that I've been enjoying a lot of myself recently as well. They also have a great range of specialty items such as high-fat keto mince and carnivore beef and organs mince with liver, kidneys, and beef heart as well. So use code Chaffee today for a free order of beef mince or another specialty gift along with your order at stockmansteaks.com.au, and I'll see you over there. Thanks, guys.
Dr. Chaffee, are you a big fan of the new sugar diet craze?
No, definitely not. And like I was saying, it's not just about weight loss. There are a lot of ways to lose weight, but you want to do it in a way that's healthy and sustainable. And eating proper human diet is that way. I think it's the best way. There's other ways that are at least better than the sugar diet. Yes, okay, you can lose weight. We are seeing that. Dr. Baker illustrated some of the reasons why that could be. But then you can do it just as easily by restricting your protein and just eating fat, or just not eating. I mean, these are things that people have done for a long time. Head to head with a low carb, high fat diet, or a low fat, high carb diet, head to head with isocaloric groups, the low carb, high fat diet worked better for weight loss. And so we've seen this in experimental data sets in humans. But again, it's not just about weight loss, because weight loss isn't the end all be all. When you're eating this amount of sugar, you're going to massively increase your blood sugar. You're going to increase your insulin. You're going to increase glycation. You're going to increase fructation. You're going to Because these people aren't talking about having, sort of whole food sort of carbohydrates. They're literally talking about eating candy. They're, hey, you get to eat candy. I mean, so we're literally sort of trying to address this to 7-year-olds and get them hooked on this sort of way of eating. It's not healthy. I mean, the idea that we should be promoting eating candy and drinking soda like this is a good thing, I think is very dangerous and is going to cause a lot of harm in people's health. It's going to make your blood sugar spike. I mean, there's all the damages, all the ravages of type 2 diabetes come from elevated blood sugar, causing glycation, damage to your blood vessels, damage to your organs, needing amputations, having end organ failure, kidney failure, going blind, diabetic retinopathy, Alzheimer's, type 3 diabetes, hormonal disruptions from the insulin affecting hundreds of different physiological processes in your body and your brain. And now you're spiking this up and you're getting a disruption and imbalance in that, in those hormones and physiological processes. So it's a short-term method that people can lose weight, but I think there are better ways of doing that, much healthier ways of doing that, and ways that you don't it doesn't have to be short-term. It doesn't have to be just, I'm just going to do this for a few weeks until my body starts having very serious issues, and then you have to deal with those issues. Doing something in a healthy way is going to allow you to do that for the rest of your life, and that's really what we need to think about, and having healthy weight loss with the end result and the end goal being health, and then letting your weight and everything else balance out. My concern as well is that this is sort of jumped up so rapidly. I mean, think about how long it's taken for a ketogenic, for paleo, for carnivore to really get a foothold and get out there. There's been a really grassroots movement that's taken years and decades to get going, and people like Dr. Atkins getting lambasted and things like that, making up stories that he died of a heart attack when he actually died by slipping on ice and hitting his head. Textbooks from Dr. Osler in the early 1900s, late 1800s, specifically saying the treatment for diabetes type 1 and type 2, because they didn't differentiate back then, was carbohydrate restriction. This has been a medical intervention for literally centuries now, and yet we're trying to, but it takes a massive grassroots effort to get this back in the vernacular. Whereas the sugar diet it's came like that, and so I just wonder, is this a response from the sugar industry, from the processed food industry, because their cereal sales are going down, their soda sales are going down, all these things are going down. They're okay, we need to make a response. And are they the ones pushing this out? Not to say that Mike is getting paid or anything like that, but I would be very, very suspicious that the origins of the sugar diet was being founded and pushed by these industries. It wouldn't surprise me anyway.
And now we're going to touch the third rail of carnivore.
Uh-oh.
I need all y'all's opinions. And if anybody cares what I think about the sugar diet craze, I've actually already made a video about it. It's on my YouTube channel. Here's the third rail, gentlemen. Are you ready for it? I need your honest answer. Honey, is it carnivore or not? Dr. Baker, go.
No, it's not.
Dr. Chaffee.
No, it's not. Sugar, and it's bee vomit, so it's not even a part of an animal, right? It's concentrated nectar.
Honey carnivore.
We're going to send Dr. Barry out to collect the honey for the carnivore meal, and he may not come back live. So no way.
Yeah, and people say, well, wait, honey comes from an animal, and that's true, and so does rat shit, but that doesn't mean it's part of your diet, right? Yeah. All right, are we ready, you think, to watch this clip from the new documentary Animal? Are you guys ready to see this?
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
Okay, all right, let me bring Josh. There's Josh Feldman. He's the director of the Animal documentary. While I'm trying to get my technology in order here, Josh, tell us about this clip we're going to see. Set this up for us while I try to get this ready.
Okay, sure thing. Well, first of all, it's so great to see you guys. Oh my goodness, this is the dream team right here. And again, I want to express how incredibly humbled we are that all of you could make the time to appear in this incredible film. So again, what is Animal all about? So Animal unmasks a century-long conspiracy of political, economic, and religious forces that we believe, that you all talk about, have twisted our natural bond with meat, enslaving us to ill health and big pharma dependency. We got some bold interviews with you guys, obviously. We've got historical revelations, groundbreaking science. It shatters current nutritional myths and dares us to reclaim the ancestral diet that fueled our evolution. And today being a very special day, this is the day that we dropped the full trailer. So Dr. Barry, you and I spoke just over a week ago. We had the teaser trailer drop. We dropped that. That was 60 seconds. And this is now the full.
Now, Josh, what I've got queued up is the clip.
Okay.
Not the, I don't have the trailer. I have the clip.
Okay. All right. We've got the trailer on our socials.
Okay, yeah, because the trailer's already out there. People can watch the full trailer if you just search for Animal Documentary. But what I've got queued up is the, I guess, 2-minute clip from the actual documentary itself. So do you want to set this up, or do you want me to just play it?
I think we should just play it and talk about it afterwards.
All right, love it. Let me share this. Okay, can you guys see that? You see the black screen? I'm going to hit play.
Yep.
Okay, here we
When
go.
you look at other historical populations, the work of Dr. J. Salisbury showed when he was living with the Native Americans in the Great Plains, they were predominantly just eating bison, and they were extremely healthy. And Salisbury found that they were actually living well over 100 as healthy, active adults, not just sitting in a nursing home turning to dust over 40 years, but actually out there with packs on their back following the buffalo herds day in and day out. So he was reversing autoimmune issues like rheumatoid arthritis, Crohn's, gout, helping people with tuberculosis and other sorts of serious illnesses affecting people in the 1800s by putting them on a pure red meat and water diet. And this was studied for decades after him. And yet now we've had that overshadowed by the propaganda that meat and animal fats are harmful to our health.
What if the key to restoring your health lies not in cutting back, but in embracing a more primal approach? What if meat, simple, nutrient-dense, and unprocessed, could be your ultimate reset button, the key to restoring your health? Could it be that by returning to a diet our ancestors thrived on, we're unlocking the health we've been searching for all along?
And it sounds a little far-fetched because we all die in our 70s and 80s and we think 90 is amazing. But we know as geneticists that we are genetically designed based on the length of our telomeres on our chromosomes, that we are designed to live about 120 years on average. And so why are we dying in our 70s and 80s or 60s? That's literally middle age. Genetically, we're designed to live 120 years. And if you eat what you're designed to eat, you should live as long as you're designed to live. And that is decades longer than we're living now. And that is proof positive that the things that we're eating are poisoning us, because slow poison is still poison. And if something kills you 40 years early, you're still poisoned.
Love it, love it, love it. All right, let me get back around. Here we go. Beautiful, beautiful. I love it. So, Josh, what do you want to say about this clip we've just seen? And do you have any updates about when this is going to be out?
I certainly do. Well, first of all, that's just one of the many great clips that we wanted to kind of share with you guys. And as we mentioned a moment ago, the full trailer is now out, which you can catch on our website and on all your socials as well. So then the information regarding the actual release of the movie. So it will be in select theaters and on digital on June 20. So 20th of June is when you can see it. It'll be available digitally anywhere and everywhere you rent movies. So Amazon, Apple, Fandango, at home, Microsoft, etc. And then theaters. So we've got it playing in theaters in New York, in LA, in Vegas, in Austin, Houston, and possibly Dallas. There will be an opportunity to host the film in your city if it's not listed in the cities that I just mentioned. So you can go to our website at animal.movie/how-to-watch and click host a screening to get started hosting in your community right now.
Nice, nice. I love it. Josh, thank you so much for that. And we're all looking forward to the premiere of this movie. I'd love to host a premiere in Nashville. Get with Alyssa, and we'll see if we can't figure out a way to do that. And I know all the docs would love to host it in their town if possible. Josh Feldman, director of Animal, the new documentary coming out June 20. Thank you so much, Josh.
Thank you, guys. Dream team. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good to see you.
All right. Now, Axel has a question, and I want to rephrase Axel's question into a bigger question. Actually, two questions. Axel says, do you know of any carnivore cardiologists near St. Louis? And so, Mike, then I want to change that a little so we can answer a lot of people's questions. How can people find a carnivore doctor? Number one. Number two, do people need a carnivore woke or aware or friendly doctor? And then number three, should they just not tell their doctor what kind of diet they're eating? I'll start with you, Dr. Baker.
Well, certainly a lot of people have done a carnivore diet without doctor supervision. And I think for a lot of people, it's fine. There are some people where therapeutic carbohydrate restriction or carnivore diet can be something that requires supervision. You know, some people on pretty intensive blood glucose lowering medications, some people on lots of antihypertensive, some psychiatric meds. When you decrease the need for those meds and you're still taking those meds, you can get some very scary side effects, hypoglycemia, hypotension, things of that nature. So I think there is a segment of the population that certainly does need some level of supervision. You know, there are a number, you know, like all of us do it. I mean, some of us variably practice online. Our company, Rivera, we have doctors licensed in all 50 states. So if you need somebody in that regard, we're obviously more than happy to help with that. I think that, you know, when it comes to, you know, and probably all of us agree, we came to this conclusion and we're practicing medicine the way we do today, using nutrition as a front line, despite our training. You know, it's kind of like despite being a doctor where they brainwash you so far the other direction that you're able to see through that. And correct me if I'm wrong, but every one of us experience ourselves first before we stuck our toe and start recommending for other patients. And that's, I think, everyone that I know of that has come to carnivore and practices as a physician has literally done it themselves because they woke up to it by experiencing it themselves.
Absolutely. Dr. Kiltz, how do you think people need a carnivore-friendly doctor? If so, where can they find one?
Dr. Filovadia online is a great spot to go and listen, learn, read his book. And I think that social media is really the new medicine. We're sharing the knowledge we've learned, but we're also sharing the knowledge we've learned right here from people that are in this community, and that's the best way to go. And so, you know, chat with others in all of these support groups, and you'll learn from others that have gone through it and found out what did they do, what type of issues they've had. And it is kind of interesting. Certainly what Dr. Baker said, you know, there's some caution depending on how many drugs you're on and how severe your symptoms and disease is. But more and more people are just saying, you know what, I'm going carnivore and I'm feeling better than ever. I had a CAC score, which was 700 a couple of years ago. I was gifted the test. I would have never done it myself. And I went to my cardiologist, which I didn't have one prior to that. And I did the treadmill. I did the CT angiogram. He says, you're fine. And now he refers patients to me to discuss carnivore diet, noting I'm a fertility doctor and helping people transition right to a carnivore diet. So I think you need this platform and you'll learn about all the potential advice that will help you heal.
Dr. Chaffee, do people need a carnivore-friendly doctor, yes or no? And where can they find one, should your answer be yes?
Yeah, I think in certain circumstances, like Dr. Baker said, it would be a good idea to have some medical support if you're on different medications, blood sugar medications, blood pressure medications, or psychiatric medications, or epilepsy medications. These are things that people have been able to reverse these conditions and maybe not need these medications or not as much of the medications anymore, but they're very dangerous to sort of play around with yourself. You would need a physician to help you with that, especially deprescribing off of things like anti-epileptics or psychiatric medications. Very, very, very have to be very careful with that. But in general, no, I don't think you need a doctor to lead you and tell you how to do it, or that like, oh, we have to be careful because if you're this condition and only certain people can. No, everybody can do it, and you can just do it on your own. Just be mindful of the fact that if you have these certain medical conditions, certain medications, you may need help adjusting those dosages, and but otherwise, you don't necessarily need someone to tell you how to do it. You can. I think the best resources are these, exactly as Dr. Kiltz said. There are many physicians, clinicians, PhDs, researchers, etc., and just normal people that have put out an abundance of free information available on the internet, because we actually care. We're not trying to profit from this. We're trying to get this information out there because this is our birthright as human beings. We should be healthy. We shouldn't be poisoned by the different things that we're putting into our body. And so just getting that information out there is just a basic right that people have to be healthy. And so we're not trying to profit off of it. There are people that are trying to profit off of this. Don't go there. Go to the free ones. There's plenty of places. There's Facebook groups been around for 20 years. People have been doing carnivore diets, like zero carb health, zeroing in on health. People have been doing this forever, and they're just this community structure, and they just help people out. So if you do need a doctor, and some people just want a doctor, they want someone that they can see, in the nice room with the lab coat, and someone in a suit looking at their blood test, going, this is good. This is a good thing. Your health is improving. They want that reassurance, and so for that, I can definitely understand that. And sometimes it's hard to have that animosity with your doctor saying you're going to kill yourself. This is a bad idea. It's nice to have someone saying, no, look, you're doing everything just fine, and you're actually improving your health. If people, there's so many people that get shtick from their doctors and their providers saying you're going to kill yourself eating all this red meat, but they don't bat an eye when you're eating processed garbage and candy and lollipops. So that's a bit odd as well. And so I don't think you necessarily need to say, hey, by the way, I'm doing a carnivore diet, unless you want to, because everybody eats the way that they do, and it just is what it is. And the doctor sort of deals with, oh, here's a problem, here's a pill. They don't care about your diet. And so you can just say, look, I'm just eating a clean whole foods diet. I'm trying to be as healthy as I can. Typically, they'll just say, great.
Yep.
Keep doing it.
Yep. I think that's a beautiful point, because I'll let everybody watching this in on a little secret. Your doctor does not care about your diet at all. They do not care. The only reason they ask the question is because there's a little box to check on their electronic medical record. So I think, and I'm telling people increasingly, a version of what you just said, Dr. Chaffee. If your doctor even asks you about your diet, say, oh, doc, I'm on this really good diet. It's sugar-free. I'm not eating any ultra-processed foods whatsoever. It's all whole food, one ingredient, sugar-free, no ultra-processed foods. And 99% of doctors are going to go, oh, yeah, that sounds great. Well, you just described keto, ketovore, carnivore, and the lion diet in one sentence, and the doctor just gave you their approval. The vast majority of people, when they say, do you know of a carnivore doctor in St. Louis? They really just want to be able to ask a question and have a question answered without the doctor judging them or becoming an emotional asshole or firing them from the practice. And what I think people need to understand is you can get that without having a carnivore-friendly doctor in your community. I have a private community with thousands of people who ask me questions, and I answer them. Dr. Baker's got Rivero. I know Dr. Kiltz and Dr. Chaffee both have private groups where if you just want to ask a doctor questions, it doesn't have to be your doctor. You can go to your doctor for refills and lab work, and if you stub your toe, go see your doctor. But if you have questions about keto, ketovore, carnivore, lion diet, a proper human diet, join my group, join Rivero, join Dr. Kiltz's group, join Dr. Chaffee's group. We'll answer your questions. We don't have to be your legal doctor. But we are doctors, and among the four of us, we've got many, many decades of experience of being doctors for people. And we don't have to be your legal doctor to answer your questions about diet and nutrition. As we wrap up, guys, I want to give each one of you the final word. Dr. Baker, what's the most important thing anybody considering carnivore or currently doing carnivore? They've heard about honey, they've heard about the sugar diet, they've heard about insulin suppression. Let's just simplify this for people. What's your simple message to people, Dr. Baker?
Yeah, I mean, meat is just the nutrition, and I think that, as Dr. Kiltz will point out, you got to eat enough, and you got to eat enough fat, and many things will take care of themselves. Don't overthink it. Don't get distracted. Enjoy. You got to enjoy what you eat. You can't be hungry, and you can't not enjoy the food. So if you can't figure out how to make meat taste good, then get some help.
Love it, Dr. Kiltz.
No one's died of an anaphylactic reaction to a ribeye steak. I mean, basically, meat we're not allergic to it. And if someone says you are, I question it. But I think the rare to raw fatty meat, throw some salt and butter on it. It's all you need. It's the proper human diet, species specific. And if it's the triple BE or the baby's diet, I highly recommend it, because then you won't need us for your health care.
Dr. Chaffee, final words of wisdom.
Yeah, well, I totally agree with that. And I mean, meat gives you the nutrition that you need, but also just remember that other things can cause harm. And so it's also about avoiding those other things. You get the meat, you get the nutrition, and that's really important. But other things can actually damage your health. It's not just about, oh, well, you don't have to eat salad. You don't want to eat salad. Salad's bad. It's bad for you. And that's a very controversial thing to say, but I stand by it. And I think there's strong evidence for that. But just be mindful of that. Just eat meat, fatty meat, until it stops tasting good, and then don't eat no plants or mushrooms, no sugar or any sweeteners, and nothing artificial. And if you apply that as a litmus test to the different sorts of things, it gets pretty easy and pretty straightforward. And as long as you're hungry, meat will taste good, and you will enjoy that, and that should tell you something. And when you eat enough of it, it will stop tasting good, and your body tells you naturally to stop, which again should tell you something about how this actually is our biologically appropriate diet.
Yep. And I would only add to what all these fine gentlemen have said, that what they just described to you, a species-specific, appropriate, proper human diet, every other animal on planet Earth knows how to do that instinctually. They don't have to take courses or join groups or go see a doctor. They just know, my sheep in the pasture, when they're hungry, they eat grass. When they're full, they stop eating and take a nap or go play. Human beings are designed just like that. Eat the meat when you're hungry, eat the meat till you're full, and then go outside and play. It really is just that simple. Gentlemen, thank you so very much for doing this. Everybody, don't forget, June the 20th, the animal documentary will be live. And as soon as any of us know what platform it's streaming on, we will let you know. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thanks.